Heavy breathing echoed through the stone halls, mingled with desperate screams for help. A voice cried out in pain, begging to be released. Someone shouted from within the prison cell, cursing loudly that Bai Qingling was a despicable, shameless demon. They yelled that he deserved to be torn to pieces. From a distance, a man sat calmly on a chair. His posture was relaxed, but his eyes betrayed a spark of thoughtfulness. He remained still until the shouting reached his ears. The demand to tear Bai Qingling to pieces. At that, his eyes snapped open. He muttered to himself that something tasted foul. Then came the dawning realization. Had he transmigrated? His memories rushed back in fragments. He recalled this scene. It was the ending sequence of a game he used to play. He moved to stand in front of a mirror, still trying to piece things together. He strained to remember the name of the villain from the game. The moment he recognized the reflection, his expression turned to shock. The figure staring back at him was him. He realized he had become the demon lord, Bai Qingling. The truth settled in with weight. He had transmigrated into the most notorious villain in the game. The very same ruthless character who ruled with fear and cruelty. The one who had 3 beautiful disciples under his command. This Bai Qingling was the final boss of the nation of immortal romance. He had betrayed his own master, even going so far as to kill him and refine him into a human elixir. The thought made his stomach churn. He remembered that to protect his secret, Bai Qingling had used forbidden spells to slaughter his entire sect. Only one junior sister had survived. Then he vanished into exile. In the game's climax, Bai Qingling re-emerged under the title of Shadow Hall's master. He clashed with Mu Xinlin, leader of the righteous path and head of the merchant sect. He had burned through 1,000 years of cultivation just to barely escape, paying a steep price in the process. That battle had marked his fall from power. Now disheveled, the once great demon lord had returned to his lair. It was a scene straight from the game's finale. A fallen tiger licking his wounds. Then came the memory, vivid and clear. This was when Bai Qingling was doomed to die. Poisoned by the 3 disciples he trusted most. A shadow crept closer. A knock came at the door. Bai Qingling stiffened. A soft, seductive voice called from outside, asking gently if he was there. The girl stepped in, carrying a small medicine bottle. She said it was time for him to take his medicine. Anxiety shot through him. He thought to himself that it had begun, just like in the game. Her expression was grim. She remembered her senior sister's order. Kill him, Xinger. It's the only way. Sen Xinger pushed open the door. She repeated the instruction in her mind, kill him, and this will all be over. As she entered, a cool breeze slipped past her, trailing in behind her like a silent omen. Bai Qingling's nerves tightened. He realized that everything was unfolding just as it had in the story. Sen Xinger was one of the 3 disciples who would betray him. She used the excuse of medicine delivery to poison him, ensuring the rise of the protagonist, Xiao Shen. While lost in thought, he watched her move closer. Now he was Bai Qingling. This villain, this demon lord, was him. He found himself reluctant to die. He thought that at the very least, his disciples shouldn't be handed over to Xiao Shen, that stallion-like protagonist. Suddenly, a robotic voice rang in his head. A system notification announced with enthusiasm that the host had unlocked the legendary love system. The system then issued a beginner mission: to use love to redeem Sen Xinger, to erase her hatred and win her loyalty. Bai Qingling's expression turned to one of confusion. He questioned the absurdity of it. A love system? He wondered aloud if this wasn't a mistake. Shouldn't the demon lord be all about cruelty and chaos? Even among transmigrators, this felt excessive. But then he paused. A memory stirred. Sen Xinger's affection could be unlocked in the original game. Even after his death, she showed traces of hesitation. That meant something. Maybe, just maybe, she wasn't fully set on killing him yet. He considered the opportunity. This was his chance. He reasoned that Sen Xinger could be the key. If she still harbored some feelings, then she was his opening. With a sly grin, he looked at her. She was the breakthrough he needed. He lifted his hand and began straightening the place, tidying up his surroundings with deliberate care. The unexpected gesture startled Sen Xinger. She cried out slightly, unsure what he was up to. Cautiously, she peeked at his movements, watching everything around them become immaculate and orderly. He raised his hand again, telling her calmly that there was no need to be so formal, and invited her to come closer. Sen Xinger was taken aback. She wondered if it was an illusion. Was this really her master, the same man who always looked down from on high, now speaking gently? Confused but instinctively obedient, she knelt and declared her respect. She formally greeted her master and bowed. Her thoughts wavered. She reminded herself to stay strong. Senior brother Zhao Shen had risked everything to warn her. He said their master had changed. She told herself there was no turning back. All she had to do was make him take the soul-devouring pill. Once he consumed it, his soul would be destroyed. There would be no reincarnation, no return. She presented the medicine bottle with steady hands and told him that the alchemy garden had just harvested a batch of century-old spirit pills. These, she claimed, had been refined into 9-turn demon pills, just as he had requested. Bai Qingling stood, puzzled. He asked how they had been refined so quickly and if she was sure the batch was perfect. Sen Xinger hesitated. Xinger didn't dare to delay. She explained that for the past 2 months, she had worked tirelessly with the blood-refining elder. She claimed the pills were guaranteed to be at least 7th grade. She assured her master with confidence. Bai Qingling examined the bottle, his eyes narrowing. He questioned why the pills were 9-colored. He asked since when she in the blood-refining hall had gained the ability to refine 9th-grade pills. Xinger turned her head slightly, avoiding his gaze. She mentioned that auxiliary materials had been added during refinement. He repeated her words coldly, pressing whether it had been intentional or an accident. The sharp tone made Xinger tremble. She immediately dropped to her knees and swore that even with the added materials, the pills retained 90% of their original effectiveness. She promised that if they were less than half as effective, she would accept any punishment without protest. Bai Qingling's thoughts turned grim. He noted how eager she was to make him consume the pill. He reflected bitterly that his beloved disciple seemed to wish for his death. His frown deepened. He reminded himself that vulnerability often followed haste, and when the heart wavered, it was the perfect time to act. He believed that great love, when used correctly, could pierce through the soul. He took the pill bottle from her hands and placed it calmly in front of him. Xinger hesitantly looked up and asked if he would take the pill now. Her thoughts wandered, remembering a time from childhood, when her tiny hands had been held gently, and she had called out softly to her master. That single word echoed again in her mind, master. Her memories faded, leaving her with a pang of regret. She asked if he was dissatisfied and offered to return the pills to the furnace for another refinement. Bai Qingling stepped forward, reached out, and touched her face. His fingers brushed her chin as he looked at her steadily. He asked why she hated him so much. He questioned what had pushed her to the point of wanting to kill her own master. Xinger was stunned, unable to respond. Bai Qingling said nothing more and told her to follow. He gestured with his hand, signaling that there was no need for questions. Xinger obeyed. She stood and wiped away her tears, replying quietly. Bai Qingling walked ahead, and she followed behind him in silence. As they descended the stone steps together, a sly smile crept across Bai Qingling's face. He thought to himself that, just as he suspected, none of them had the courage, or certainty, to betray him yet. He saw this as an opportunity. If used correctly, he believed he might still reverse his fate. They arrived before a dark, menacing door. Xinger paused, unsettled by its aura. She asked nervously what this place was. Bai Qingling explained that this was the Blood Master's underground chamber. The very place where, in the game, Zhao Shen would arrive to deliver the killing blow after Bai Qingling had taken the poisoned pill. He noted that while the scene appeared peaceful in the game, in reality, it was drenched in dread. Before them lay bones, countless skeletons scattered across the ground. Bai Qingling explained that these were remains of the One-Eyed Witch tribe, once rulers of the 10,000 southern mountains. He said their leader, Ta Ba Chong Yu, had deceived him and subjected him to endless torment, making life a misery worse than death. He revealed that Ta Ba Chong Yu had sought to extract his innate demon seed, but at the critical moment, his demonic blood had awakened, allowing him to escape by shedding his own skin. He spoke of vengeance, that once his powers matured, he had returned to the mountains to repay the horrors inflicted upon him. Xinger felt something stir. She began to understand him, at least a little. She thought to herself that anyone who had been betrayed by both their master and an entire tribe might very well lose faith in the world. She clenched her fists, telling herself that perhaps her master didn't deserve such cruelty. But then doubt crept back in. She reminded herself of her senior sister's warnings. She wondered if, by not killing him now, she would be enabling the deaths of many more in the future. Bai Qingling noticed her hesitation. He looked at her but said nothing. As the door creaked open, they stepped inside together. He told her this was what he wanted her to see. Inside the chamber, suspended in midair, were floating red orbs. Their glow was faint, almost watchful. Xing'er's eyes widened. She recognized them as demon image orbs. She remembered her senior sister's hushed words, how these orbs could spy on their targets and project images at the user's will. Her senior sister had claimed that Bai Qingling had installed one in each of their rooms. She had warned that they were not disciples, but tools. Tainted fruit plucked too soon, corrupted from the first touch. Xing'er had been told to pretend she didn't know of the orb's existence. But now, her master had shown them to her voluntarily. She clenched her fists tighter, confused. Bai Qingling glanced at her, sensing the tension. Xing'er responded quietly, confirming she was listening. She slowly raised her head, unsure of what was coming next. The orbs began to glow brighter, projecting an image into the air. It showed a young girl sobbing before the corpses of her parents. Ruthless bandits surrounded her, voices filled with scorn. One of them complained about her crying, calling her annoying. He raised his blade, preparing to strike her down. Another snapped at her to be quiet. The girl screamed, shutting her eyes in terror, just as a shadowed figure appeared, cutting through the two men like a storm. The figure walked forward slowly, their outline familiar in a way that tugged at something deep within the girl's memory. Standing in front of her, the person revealed themselves. Bai Qingling. His crimson eyes glowed ominously as he identified himself. The girl immediately fell to her knees, pleading with him. She begged him to save her parents, crying that the gods and Buddhas had abandoned the world, and that demons spared no one. Bai Qingling gently touched her tear-streaked face and told her to come with him. When she asked where, he gave a soft, almost tender smile and said, "Home." The memory dissolved into the present. Tui Xing'er, overcome with emotion, spoke quietly, calling him as her master. He said that throughout his life, he had made countless enemies, and as his disciple, she too would face many dangers. He explained that the demon image orbs were one of the few ways he had to protect her in moments of peril. She hesitated, then asked carefully if he had used the orbs not to spy on them, but to guard them. Bai Qingling turned away, his expression unreadable. He admitted that over the years, he had intentionally acted harshly. The world already believed she had every reason to hate him, he said. If one day he were to die suddenly, he wanted her to have justification, to turn against him, to protect herself. Tui Xing'er's expression softened. As he continued, he said that if this secret could remain buried forever, that would be ideal. Tears began streaming down her face. He sighed bitterly and told her to let it go. All he wanted was for her to live peacefully. Nothing else mattered. Without warning, she threw herself into his arms, embracing him tightly. She wept, blaming herself, saying she should never have listened to outsiders or believed in them like a fool. She cried that she should have realized it earlier, that no one in this world treated her better than her master. She begged him for forgiveness, saying again and again that she had been wrong. Bai Qingling watched her carefully, and then a sly smile formed on his lips. He mused to himself that her response only proved how much she truly loved her master. Just then, the system chimed in with a notification. It congratulated Bai Qingling on completing the beginner mission. His reward was 500 points and a golden chest. He felt a surge of joy. The mission was complete, and apparently, great love really had redeemed her. He brushed off the thought. What mattered now was survival. To change the outcome of the story, he would need to keep rewriting the plot. Xing'er's loyalty, he thought, was now essential. He placed a hand on her shoulder and called her a rebellious disciple. He said he knew her personality better than anyone. Then he asked who had planted those deceitful ideas in her heart. Xing'er immediately knelt and confessed. She said it was Zhu Shen, a direct disciple of Yinggui Palace. She explained that Zhu Shen had tried to ruin the relationship between her and her master and had misled her senior sisters as well, destroying the bond between master and disciples. Blushing, she added that everything that happened today was because of his manipulations. She pleaded for punishment, saying any penalty was acceptable as long as she was not cast out. Bai Qingling smiled faintly and said that if she truly wanted redemption, she had a chance. He laid his hand on her shoulder again and instructed her to complete a task to atone for her mistake. Xing'er's gaze grew focused. She bowed her head and said she would follow any order. At the Shangming sect, near Yule Hall, two figures stood waiting. One was the male protagonist of the original story, Zhu Shen. The other, a cold-faced woman, was Tantai Lingying, senior sister to Zinger. Zhu Shen appeared uneasy. He remarked that Zinger had not returned yet and worried that the demon might have discovered something. He feared she had been exposed. Tantai Lingying reminded him that she had instructed Zinger to send word, no matter the outcome. She noted that since there was no message, the plan must still be in motion. Zhu Shen's anxiety mounted. He said he couldn't wait any longer and wanted to check for himself. As he stepped forward, Tantai Lingying blocked him with her sword, warning him sternly not to act impulsively. She said the blood hall was surrounded by deadly restrictions and that only Zinger had permission to enter. She added that forcing his way in would be suicide. Zhu Shen hesitated, then reluctantly agreed to wait. Moments later, his eyes lit up. Tui Zinger was walking toward them. Zhu Shen rushed forward with joy, calling out to her, saying how relieved he was to see she was safe. He moved to support her, but she instinctively stepped back. Her eyes were filled with disgust. Zhu Shen froze, wounded by her reaction. He asked in disbelief if that backward step was intentional. He reminded her of all he had done for her over the years, only to be refused even the simplest gesture in return. Tantai Lingying stepped forward to check on her junior sister. She asked if the mission had succeeded, and why no message had been sent. Zinger admitted she had hesitated, then confirmed that she had succeeded. Zhu Shen couldn't hide his pride. He said that he had started infiltrating the Shangming demon sect when he was 12, had spent 3 years preparing, and now, at 15, was finally bringing down a powerful demon leader. He boasted that in 6 days, he would be hailed as a hero of the righteous path. He explained that he had drunk the Wuyi soul-eating powder and, during the operation, had sensed the demon's emotional fluctuations. He feared a mistake and dared not send any signal. Tantai Lingying reassured him that there was no need to rush. She recalled that the poison pill used was purchased at great cost on the black market. She described how Bai Qingling would die in agony after 7 days when the poison reached its peak, even if he were a great cultivator. Still, doubt lingered in Tantai Lingying's eyes. She said that 7 days was not a long wait but that she had one question for Zhu Shen. She asked why, if Bai Qingling had never wronged him personally, he had gone so far as to help them and provide such a powerful poison. Tui Zinger supported the question, asking why Zhu Shen had been so dedicated. Zhu Shen smiled and claimed that he simply couldn't bear to see them suffer. He said he only wanted to free them from their misery. He insisted that his intentions were pure. Tui Zinger ducked behind Tantai Lingying, her voice trembling. She asked if everything he did had been for them. Zhu Shen waved his hands in denial, telling them not to overthink it. Tantai Lingying glanced at him, then turned away. She said that was enough for now, that time would tell. She reminded him not to miss his evening class at the ghost hall. Zhu Shen forced a smile and agreed. He turned to both women, saying they would meet again. As he walked away, he muttered to himself how quickly women changed their minds. Both Tui Zinger and Tantai Lingying watched him go in silence. Tantai Lingying questioned Shinger without hesitation. She asked if Shinger was feeling conflicted inside, urging her to be honest with her senior sister. Shinger paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. She asked softly whether Lingying had ever considered that their master might not be what he appeared. Perhaps he was simply strict, but not malicious. Lingying responded with a bitter smile. She said that the evidence Zhao Shen provided was undeniable, proof that Bai Qingling viewed them as nothing more than tools. She added that, even putting aside his other crimes, this fact alone was enough to sever any trust or forgiveness. Shinger remained silent, torn. Meanwhile, back in Bai Qingling's lair, he was well aware of the delay Shinger had caused. That brief disruption had earned him just enough breathing space. He reflected that Zhao Shen and the other 2 disciples had likely started suspecting betrayal by now. He dismissed the thought for the moment and turned his attention to the system's reward. A treasure chest appeared, catching his attention immediately. It looked exactly like the ones in the original game. Bai Qingling's lips curled into a wicked smile as the chest opened. The system prompted him to choose one of 3 secret treasures. The elastic freedom technique, which was clearly designed for certain effects when used with female cultivators of the same level. The saw wheel defense technique, which temporarily enhanced certain body parts. And finally, the Demon Lord's cultivation rewind card. The moment he saw the first 2 options, Bai Qingling froze, glaring at the absurdity. He questioned how these bizarre, almost comedic techniques could possibly belong to a demon lord's arsenal. They felt more like gimmicks for human cultivators. Without hesitation, he seized the rewind card, the only real option. Holding it, he grinned in triumph. The rewind card allowed him to revert to any cultivation stage from his past life. That meant he could reclaim his peak power, the nascent soul transformation stage. He declared to himself that in 7 days, he would determine who lived and who died. He believed Xinger had carried out his instructions properly, pretending the poison plan had succeeded. According to the original plot, in 7 days, they would enter his blood cocoon, expecting him weak and dying. That moment would be critical. It would be the protagonist and the hidden traitor Zhao Shen who arrived. Bai Qingling's eyes gleamed with determination. These 7 days were his window to shift the entire story. Standing tall, he shouted to the heavens that he, Bai Qingling, Demon Lord, would defy fate itself. Just then, a strange box slowly emerged from the blood lake, accompanied by King Ling's beastly roar. The box pulsed with a mysterious aura. Bai Qingling grabbed it instantly. Inside was something from his past, a secret he had hidden long ago. Fragments of his true essence, organs replaced with decoys, and contingency tools for resurrection. He noted that as long as even a fragment of his soul survived during a battle, he could regenerate perfectly. But now, armed with knowledge of the future, he deemed such safety nets unnecessary. With a wide grin, he opened his mouth and swallowed the contents, eager to restore his strength and reclaim his power. He closed his eyes, entering deep cultivation. As his essence returned, he sighed with satisfaction. His injuries healed completely, and his power surged back to the foundation establishment stage. With a single blow, he cracked the ground beneath him. He smirked, declaring that this was the aura a true boss should wield. At that moment, a message came through. Xinger had returned and claimed she had completed her task. She also said she had something special to offer. Bai Qingling narrowed his eyes. He wondered what she could possibly give him, something not found in the game. Before he could dwell on it, Sui Zinger arrived. She knelt and reported that Zhao Shen had been elated to hear the poison had been administered. She added that the 2 senior sisters showed no suspicion toward her. Bai Qingling asked casually what Zhao Shen had said. Zinger answered that he expected the poison to peak in 7 days, and that even a golden immortal wouldn't survive it. He planned to return then to inspect the remains, and had even tried to shift blame to Mu Xinlin. Sui Zinger frowned, now aware of the full scope of Zhao Shen's plan. She couldn't believe he was so shameless. Then, she took out a pill bottle and presented it to Bai Qingling. Inside was a real 9-turned soul restoration pill. Bai Qingling jumped up in shock. In the original game, that pill only existed as an illustration. It was unobtainable. How had Zinger gotten her hands on a genuine 9th-grade treasure pill? Zinger smiled sweetly, thanked her master for the reward, and announced that she would retreat to cultivate. As she left, she subtly licked her lips. Bai Qingling flushed, staring at his hand in confusion. Back in the sect, Xiao Chen knelt in front of his master's chamber in show of respect. His master asked if it was true that Bai Qingling not only lost his magical power but was also poisoned and his life is hanging by a thread. Zhao Chen exclaimed happily in confirmation. He told her that he has a good relationship with his disciple Sen Xinger and she told him of it herself. He encourages her to head to him and kill him in order to become the next sect leader. She slaps him hard on his cheek, leaving him confused. She told him that in the past Bai Qingling was the direct disciple of the alchemy grandmaster Xie Yaoshi, and his alchemy skills were even better than his master's, so what kind of poisonous pill could make him so helpless? As he tried to tell her the pill, she glared at him fiercely, causing him to shut his mouth. He bowed his head and admitted his wrongs for believing fake information. He then bowed and took his leave. His master, now left alone, recalled how Bai Qingling had spared her life before. She wondered if it was to make her resent him and drive her to seek revenge in the future. If that is the case, then he succeeded. She declared that his life will be ended by her soon. Recalling the earlier system message about unlocking rewards, he commanded the system to show him the new marketplace. It responded by listing the point tiers: bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and diamond yang, each increasingly expensive. He saw that he currently had 1,000 bronze points, and had previously received a 5,000 point reward. The system then granted him a one-time draw before buy offer worth 1,000 points. Bai Qingling muttered about typical marketing schemes, but acknowledged he had no choice. The system activated, and 3 more rewards appeared. The first was the choose one of 3 memory recall storyline card, which would trigger automatic memory restoration if the plot slipped his mind. The second was the emotionless lust severing blade, which would cut off all emotional and physical attachments. The third, the parasite pill, was said to erase identity records. Bai Qingling cursed loudly. He claimed to already know the plot, mocked the lust-severing blade as little more than a butcher's tool, and derided the draw before buy system as a scam. He called the offerings garbage and accused the system of being a clueless dog. Just then, a glowing object appeared, the Iron Shadow Demon Pearl. Bai Qingling stared at it curiously. An image began to form inside. It was his first disciple, Feng Lishui. She knelt and greeted him with respect. Bai Qingling confirmed she was indeed his first disciple and marveled that this was better than any gotcha pull. He evaluated her silently, noting her cold demeanor and warm heart. She was exactly his type. Feng Lishui, puzzled by his silence, looked up. She wondered if the rumors about him softening were true and whether she should warn her sisters. She smiled to herself, but Bai Qingling suddenly broke the silence, snapping at her. He asked why she was smiling and if she thought he was a joke. She froze. In that instant, the oppressive aura she once knew returned, crushing her confidence. She felt terrified, instinctively touching her stomach where the cursed seal lay dormant. She knew one wrong move could trigger eternal, soul-devouring pain. Bai Qingling then asked her location. She replied that she had followed his orders and wiped out all dark demons in Blackwater Mountain. The demon suppression tower was now clear of righteous disciples. No one would interfere with his next move. He praised her and ordered her to continue the mission. Infiltrate the demon suppression tower and retrieve the secret artifact. Feng Lishui bowed again and promised obedience, though sweat beaded on her brow. She acknowledged that her master remained ruthless and terrifying. As she turned to leave, Bai Qingling called out to stop her. She turned, startled, and asked if he had more instructions. He approached her slowly and asked if she knew what day it was. She confessed she did not and lowered her head in shame. Bai Qingling stepped closer and said time flew quickly. After tonight, she would be an adult. Feng Lishui was stunned. She hadn't realized. 14 years had passed since that stormy, snow-covered day when she first followed him up the mountain. No one else remembered. But Bai Qingling, her master, had never forgotten, and now, he took her hand in his. Bai Qingling gently blew on Feng Lizu's hands, his breath warm against her cold skin. For a fleeting moment, the distance between them vanished. They stood close, closer than they ever had, but just as quickly, Bai Qingling's expression darkened. He solemnly wished her a happy birthday, calling her by her childhood name, Little Lishui. Feng Lishui was taken aback, her usual guarded expression faltering. Then, slowly, her gaze softened. A fragile smile bloomed on her lips as she looked at him. She said nothing, simply turned, and walked away, tears falling silently as she departed. She announced her leave with a bowed head. The system chimed immediately after. It congratulated Bai Qingling, stating he had successfully conveyed sincere affection, earning him 2,000 points. His current balance now totaled 3,000. Bai Qingling remained still, his face unreadable. He hadn't planned this moment. He hadn't acted to earn points or affection. He'd simply remembered her birthday from the game, because her character, her story, had left an impression on him. Now, all 3 of his disciples were emotionally tethered to him. For the next 7 days, at least, he expected no rebellion. With Zinger's gifted consolidation pill, Bai Qingling believed that returning to the core formation stage would be effortless. With that foundation, he resumed his cold, calculating demeanor, ready to crush the self-proclaimed righteous protagonist. Elsewhere, at the throne hall of the Ming sect, disciples trained diligently. Among them, Zhao Shen sat brooding. A junior brother noticed his glum expression and asked if something was wrong. Zhao Shen replied curtly that he was fine, then changed the subject, asking if the phoenix hairpin he'd sent for delivery had reached the junior sister in Yule Hall. The junior confirmed he had delivered it. Zhao Shen's eyes sparked with hope and asked if she had accepted it. The junior hesitated, then confessed that she had broken the hairpin on the spot. Zhao Shen's smile faded. The flute he held slipped from his hands. He clutched his head in disbelief, asking why she would reject him. The junior added nervously that she hadn't just broken the gift. She had looked utterly disdainful and stated clearly that she hoped Zhao Shen would stop bothering her. She had said she didn't want her lover to misunderstand. Zhao Shen coughed blood from sheer frustration, collapsing into a bush. His junior brother rushed over in panic, asking if he was all right. Zhao Shen pushed himself up and screamed to the sky, demanding to know who had stolen her from him. He vowed he would never forgive whoever it was. Back at Bai Qingling's domain, he emerged from his meditation, satisfied. He had once again reached the core formation stage, but not just any breakthrough. He had formed a supreme-grade demonic core, radiating 9 colors, coveted by demon cultivators across the realm. Though it didn't rival divine transformation strength, at this stage, he was untouchable. Tui Zinger knelt excitedly and congratulated him, declaring it an honor to serve such a powerful master. Bai Qingling acknowledged her contribution and said he would not forget her effort. From now on, he told her, she no longer needed to bow or use formalities when addressing him. Overjoyed, Tui Zinger bowed once more and thanked him earnestly. Then, with barely contained laughter, she shared what had happened that morning. She said that Zhao Shen had tried, once again, to win her over with a gift. She reenacted the moment, gleefully recounting how she broke it without hesitation. She mocked him for thinking she could be deceived again. Her tone turned dark as she muttered that the only pity was she hadn't broken his bones instead. Bai Qingling looked at her, eyebrows raised at her unfiltered madness. She added that it would have felt better if she had. He then told her to come closer. She blinked in confusion, then obeyed, stepping forward. Bai Qingling stood and instructed her to remove her shoes. She was startled and asked for confirmation. He gave her a firm look, and she hesitated, knowing what it meant. In demon cultivation, a woman's feet were considered sacred, imbued with yin energy capable of disrupting demonic essence. Revealing them was a rare act, even among the boldest sects. Seeing the unyielding gaze of her master, she nodded. She slowly peeled off her socks, revealing soft, pale feet. On the arch of her foot, a faint purple mark glowed ominously. Bai Qingling's face turned cold. He asked sternly what the mark was. Upon closer inspection, he identified it, the toxic miasma of the heavenly demon flower. He demanded to know why she hadn't told him. She replied gently, saying it wasn't worth troubling him. She admitted that if the poison consumed her heart, it didn't matter, so long as she could keep making pills that pleased him. Her entire existence, she declared, belonged to him. Bai Qingling felt his expression tighten. Her words were intense, far beyond what he could handle. He coughed awkwardly and broke the moment, commanding her to sit. Tui Zinger was startled and asked if he really meant for her to sit on his throne. Bai Qingling placed a hand on her shoulder and pushed gently. He said he would detoxify her. She looked up in awe, realizing what he meant. She asked if he was going to use his demonic blood, immune to all toxins, to cleanse her. She shook her head firmly, protesting that someone as noble as him should not defile himself with her tainted body. But Bai Qingling ignored her and touched the mark. Overwhelmed, Tui Zinger began to cry. She whispered that someone like him should never need to do something so low for her, and yet, here he was. Her eyes welled with tears. She said he truly cared for her. He responded calmly that the toxin had been removed. She trembled in relief and whispered her thanks. He wiped his lips and told her she would be fine now. Her gratitude turned into soft admiration. Just as she was about to speak again, a sharp asked coldly how long Tui Zinger intended to sit on her master's throne. Realizing the impropriety of her position, Tui Zinger panicked, covered her face, and fled the hall. She shouted that she was taking her leave, leaving only the echo of her footsteps behind. The system lit up with a crisp notification, congratulating the host. Bai Qingling had successfully conveyed great love, earning 2,000 points. His total now reached 5,000. He leaned back in his chair, relaxed but thoughtful. He addressed the system, requesting a review of his techniques and abilities. The system responded promptly. Cultivation level. Core formation stage. Divine techniques. Taishang breathing technique, unavailable. Skyhorse Dragon Transformation Sutra. Sea of Blood Decision 9 Condensation Heaven Decision. Support skills. Alchemy, level 89 Ancient Arts, level 95. Beast Taming, level 60. Crafting, level 90. Bai Qingling narrowed his eyes. Even at the core formation stage, he still couldn't use his innate demonic arts or his strongest divine abilities. He analyzed the skills again and concluded that, for now, his his most reliable tool remained ancient arts. His eyes landed on a name, Zhao Tianyan. A plan began to form. Tomorrow, he decided, he would enter the blood vermilion hall. He would decapitate himself, figuratively, of course, and earn credit for it. The parasite seed he had was perfect for this task. He extended his hand, summoning a twisted, pulsating insect that squirmed into view. Bai Qingling grinned darkly, hoping Zhao Tianyan would enjoy the gift he'd prepared. The next day, he stepped into the cold chambers of the blood vermilion hall's third underground level. Inside, screams rang out from prisoners locked in cages. They shouted that the demon lord had returned. One prisoner, trembling and wild-eyed, shrieked to curse him, demanding his death. Another roared bitterly, claiming they had once shared meals together on the path of demons. Bai Qingling ignored them, walking toward a particular cell where a man sat, calm but clearly annoyed. This man glared at him and demanded to know what he wanted. Bai Qingling studied him intently. This one had all the signs of a protagonist. In the game, he had only been a minor background character, an experiment picked up during a mission. But after Bai Qingling's in-game death, a hidden mission had revealed his true identity. This man was Zhao Yi, chief disciple of Kunlun Dao sect's Jade Su master. He was already in the foundation establishment stage, and known for his skill in the Kunlun divine sword technique. A rising star in the righteous path. Zhao Yi glared, demanding to know how Bai Qingling knew his name. Bai Qingling explained that Zhao Shen, Zhao Yi's disciple, was already on his way to find him. He added that the two clearly cared deeply for each other, so perhaps they should be reunited. Zhao Yi's eyes flared with fury. He threatened to turn into a demon himself if Bai Qingling harmed even a single hair on Zhao Shen's head. A flicker of dark light passed through his irises. Bai Qingling noted the shift. Zhao Yi, it seemed, had already touched the edges of demonic cultivation, likely through secret practices like the soul-calling flag. In one side quest, he'd even helped Zhao Shen awaken 3 demon bloodlines, beginning a hybrid path of Dao and demon. Bai Qingling's gaze sharpened. He declared that he despised threats, but he was willing to give Zhao Yi a chance. He proposed a game. Zhao Yi, suspicious, asked what kind of game. Bai Qingling offered a duel, head-to-head. If Zhao Yi won, he would be freed and allowed to reunite with his disciple. If he lost, the soul-calling flag would refine his soul completely. Zhao Yi snapped back that the terms were ridiculous. If he were truly strong enough, he wouldn't be trapped here in the first place. In response, Bai Qingling began chanting a primeval incantation. With a wave of his hand, he removed the seal that suppressed Zhao Yi's cultivation. He invited Zhao Yi to see for himself. His own power had been damaged by Mu Xinlan. He was starting over. Now, they were equals, both at Foundation establishment. He asked again. Was Zhao Yi ready to fight? Zhao Yi stood. His aura surged with intent. He accepted the challenge and proclaimed that he would face Bai Qingling to the end. As the two locked eyes, the parasite seed began to writhe silently in the shadows. Elsewhere, Zhao Shen was restless. He sensed something was off. Tui Zinger had been acting strangely. He decided he couldn't stay idle any longer. He rose early, preparing to leave. When his junior brother asked where he was going, Zhao Shen replied that he simply wanted to fish by Tianyuan Lake. Outside, the sky poured rain. Thunder rumbled. At the entrance to the blood hall, Tui Zinger stood soaked from head to toe. Her voice was meek as she asked permission to enter. Bai Qingling looked toward the door, puzzled. She wasn't supposed to come until tomorrow at noon. Zhao Shen was due to arrive the next morning. Her presence now was unscheduled, unexpected. He sat down with a guarded look and allowed her in. Tui Zinger entered, her voice trembling. She said she felt uneasy, and came to check if he was all right. Bai Qingling narrowed his eyes, questioning whether she feared an ambush from Zhao Shen, or believed he had been crippled by Mu Xinlan. Just then, lightning crashed outside. In a flash of memory, Bai Qingling understood. This storm mirrored that night from the past, the night Tui Zinger's parents were murdered. He had rescued her then, amidst a thunderstorm just like this one. The terror etched into her heart had never left. Looking at her drenched and pitiful form, he realized the significance. Her story, her power. It might hinge on reliving the trauma of that night. Tui Zinger stammered again, but this time, her voice was soft and sultry. She made a bold request. She said she wanted to sleep with him. Bai Qingling flushed, stunned by her sudden forwardness. He recognized the attempt to seduce, but his mind snapped back to reality. A pivotal moment was approaching. The plotline would soon shift toward killing Xiaochen. There could be no distractions. He angrily slammed a chair aside and barked at her. He asked if that was all she came for. His tone was harsh, a command to return to her senses. He yelled, warning Tiani to behave. Tiani rushed forward, her arms flinging around Bai Qingling as thunder cracked through the night sky. With a trembling voice and a pitiful look, she said she was terrified of storms and begged to stay with him. Just for one night. Her eyes glistened with fear, and her voice cracked with desperation. She pleaded for comfort. Bai Qingling hesitated, his expression hardening. He shouted back, asking what her fear of thunder had to do with him. He reminded her of the Bloodmaster's forbidden rules, which clearly stated that no one else was permitted to stay within these halls. If he allowed this, he said, the authority of the Yule Hall would crumble. Yet moments later, they were lying side by side on the blood-colored bed of the Bloodmaster's palace. The system chimed in, congratulating the host for completing a grand love event. Another 2,500 points were added to his balance, bringing the total to 7,500. Bai Qingling exhaled sharply, rubbing his temples. He muttered to himself that his carefully crafted image as a ruthless demon lord would eventually collapse. No one would believe that under the cold exterior lived a man who gave in to thunder-scared disciples. He glanced sideways at Tiani, who lay curled in a delicate, alluring pose. She whispered softly that he had always focused on the grand pursuit of immortality. How could someone like her ever matter in comparison? And yet, here they were, sharing the same bed. She asked herself whether she deserved this. If it was even real. Was it possible to be this happy? Suddenly, thunder boomed again, louder than before. Tiani let out a small cry and instinctively embraced Bai Qingling in terror. Startled, he stiffened and awkwardly shouted at her. He demanded to know who gave her permission to touch him and warned that she was playing a dangerous game. Tiani flushed. She quickly explained that her limbs were cold, and that it was simply for warmth. She swore she wouldn't take things any further. But the words, "take it further," made Bai Qingling pause. A realization struck. Her arrival tonight was too early, earlier than the original timeline. That meant something else might be ahead of schedule too. His eyes widened. Zhao Chun. If Tiani had shown up sooner, Zhao Chun might already be on his way to Yule Hall. There was no time to waste. Bai Qingling grabbed Tiani by the shoulders. He told her sternly to wake up and listen. He had a task for her, an important one. She had to follow his next instructions exactly, with no deviation. Meanwhile, at the base of the mountain, a lone figure galloped through the rain, startling the guards' horses. Zhao Chun shouted with manic excitement. He declared that this was the day Bai Qingling would die, and the day he would rise, his name remembered across the cultivation world. Scene change. In a tranquil courtyard, Tantai Lingyan sat playing her zither. 7 days had passed. The melody danced through the air until a figure approached, blue-haired Yi Hongyi. She asked Lingyan if she wished to see the fall of the demon with her own eyes. Lingyan turned toward her slowly, sorrow in her eyes. She replied that Hongyi, being her dearest sister, should understand. Until she fully cut ties with her master, she wouldn't allow anyone to speak ill of him. Hongyi took a step closer and apologized. She asked if Lingyan intended to bid farewell to Bai Qingling in person. Lingyan turned her gaze toward the horizon, grief shadowing her face. She thought that he has been her eternal nightmare, and the apple of her eye. Elsewhere, the jade talisman she carried granted her smooth passage past the Yule Palace guards. Xiao Chen landed quietly nearby, his heart racing. Today was the day everything would change. He had lived in the shadows for 15 years, disguised as a loyal subordinate, suffering and enduring for this very moment. With the secret artifact bestowed by his master, he felt invincible. Tuesday Shinger approached quietly and called out to him. Hearing her voice, Xiao Chen lit up with joy. He noted how she had ignored him for so long, and now, finally, she spoke. Though he tried to hide his excitement, it was written all over his face. He followed behind her, struggling not to gush. He said he hadn't eaten or drunk in days because of her absence. Shinger smiled softly and explained that she had only been avoiding him to protect their plan. If the demon had seen them together, she said, the entire operation might have been jeopardized. Xiao Chen beamed with pride. He believed it now. She cared for him all along. He offered that when the final day came, they could slay the demon together and claim glory side by side. Xing'er pulled her hand away and said she was still afraid. She claimed the demon haunted her, and she hadn't yet shaken the fear. Xiao Chen gripped his sword and said that it didn't matter. He declared with confidence that today, he would lead her, protect her, and bring down the demon. Xing'er blushed and said she was counting on him. Xiao Chen was overwhelmed. He told himself she had come early just to cheer him on. But then, something changed in her expression. The gate to the Bloodlord's domain slowly creaked open. As the two stepped inside, an eerie air crept over them. Xiao Chen's instincts kicked in. Something was wrong. He placed a hand over his chest and felt the mystical ore from his secret artifact, an item granted by Master Goku. It was being suppressed. Some unknown force was interfering with it. He warned Xing'er they should turn back and find another path. She insisted this was the only route. She said she had served the demon for years. She would never get it wrong. When he still hesitated, Xing'er put on a wounded expression. She asked if he truly didn't trust her. Alarmed, Xiao Chen shook his head and reassured her. He said he trusted her fully. He followed her deeper into the hall. They reached the final chamber. The air was thick with dread. Suddenly, the massive exit gate slammed shut behind them. From the shadows, Bai Qingling appeared. His voice was calm and chilling as he greeted Xiao Chen for the first time. Xiao Chen was struck dumb. He gasped, recognizing him. He cried out Bai Qingling's name and exclaimed in disbelief that he was still alive. Xing'er feigned shock as well. She whispered that Bai Qingling didn't look poisoned or near death. She wondered aloud whether he had purged the poison entirely. Xiao Chen comforted her, pointing to a mark on Bai Qingling's arm. He said it was the final stage of the Kain Wu soul-devouring powder, incurable. He grinned smugly and reminded her that the demon's strength was surely an illusion. Bai Qingling muttered calmly, asking if Xiao Chen was going to act now. Was he preparing his incantation? Was he planning to trigger the Blood Hall's restrictions as a final gamble? Xiao Chen smirked, confident that he would not allow it. He raised his blade and stepped into an offensive stance. With a surge of power, he activated his ascending sword technique. Bai Qingling, barely above a whisper, said one word: stop. Xiao Chen let out a triumphant roar, his voice echoing through the blood-drenched hall. He shouted that it was too late for begging, too late for mercy. With a crazed expression, he lunged forward and slashed toward the figure he believed to be Bai Qingling. His sword arced through the air, powered by desperation and vengeance. He screamed that this was the end, that he had finally done it, that justice had been served. He proclaimed that the disciples of the demon would be safe now, under his watch. But the moment the blade connected, something didn't feel right. Xiao Chen's elation twisted into confusion. The body on the ground, it wasn't Bai Qingling. He staggered back, eyes wide. This man wasn't the demon lord. Slowly, the false face unraveled, revealing a familiar figure beneath. His heart dropped. It was his own brother, Xiao Yi. He stared in disbelief, his voice cracking as he whispered his brother's name. Xiao Yi, bloodied and broken, reached out weakly and confirmed it. He called him brother. The word struck like a knife. Panicked, Xiao Chen dropped to his knees, trying to lift him. His hands trembled as he asked what had happened. But before he could process it, the real Bai Qingling appeared, his laugh echoing coldly through the chamber. He stepped forward with a cruel smirk and said it had been a reunion worth watching. He declared mockingly that the two were truly a touching pair of brothers. He claimed he had ended Xiao Yi's suffering mercifully. He said Xiao Chen should be grateful. Hearing this, something inside Xiao Chen shattered. He screamed, voice cracked with pain, and demanded to know why. Why hadn't Bai Qingling even let his brother speak a few final words? That's when Xing'er stepped forward, her tone suddenly sharp. She scoffed and called him a fool. She said that only now did he realize the brilliance of their master's plan. Xiao Chen turned toward her, horrified. He asked in disbelief if she had just referred to Bai Qingling as master. Xing'er didn't deny it. Bai Qingling pulled her close, cupping her chin as he smiled smugly. He told Xiao Chen that anyone who served him was both disciple and servant. He said Xiao Chen was finally learning what the demon realm was really like. Xiao Chen snapped. He screamed her name, his voice raw. He raged about how he had always treated her with care. Just a short while ago, when he touched her hand, she recoiled. but now she was embracing the demon lord like a lover. He pounded the ground in frustration, overwhelmed by betrayal. His shouts filled the chamber, a mix of disbelief, grief, and rage. Xing'er's face turned icy. She said coldly that from the beginning, the master had treated her with sincerity, that she had sworn to serve him unto death. She accused Xiao Chen of trying to divide their bond, of scheming to harm Bai Qingling. She said she wished she could flay his skin and rip out his soul. Xiao Chen, even now, couldn't accept it. His mind clung to denial. He thought to himself that this couldn't be her true will. He said aloud that it had to be puppet magic. The demon had taken control of her. He roared that he would kill Bai Qingling and free Xing'er from the spell. With one final cry, he launched himself at the demon lord. He shouted that even if Bai Qingling wasn't poisoned, even if he had regained some power, he had no chance against him. He claimed the Mutum land curse should have burned away his cultivation completely. Xing'er shouted in concern, warning her master. But Bai Qingling didn't move. Calm and expressionless, he activated the demon eye. Xiao Chen froze midair, unable to move. His limbs locked, his sword stalled just before impact. Time seemed to slow. He realized, Bai Qingling could see the flow of sword energy, the trajectory of his attacks, everything. With perfect timing, Bai Qingling reached forward. And with only 2 fingers, he stopped the sword's edge. Xiao Chen's face twisted in shock. He screamed that this wasn't possible. That this level of power was golden core cultivation, power that should have been lost. Bai Qingling chuckled. He said mockingly that Xiao Chen's full strength only reached the golden core level anyway. He explained that he, too, was only using his golden core power now, out of respect. Then, without effort, Bai Qingling shattered Xiao Chen's blade. He said if he had wanted, the fight would have ended long ago. Xiao Chen's thoughts spiraled. His weapon, his technique, the blade gifted by his master, all of it had failed. Everything was collapsing. Xing'er watched from the side, her eyes gleaming with awe. She smiled to herself, thrilled that her master's cultivation had survived. That even Mu Tam Land's poison hadn't destroyed it. The Supreme Demon Lord was back, and more terrifying than ever. Bai Qingling spoke again. He said the warm-up was over. It was time to end the game. He told Xiao Chen to bring out his final weapon. Xiao Chen froze again. His eyes darted, stunned that the demon knew about the 12-petaled demon suppressing Golden Lotus. He wondered how every move had already been anticipated. With no other option, he drew on his last hope. He activated the Zhan Qian 8 forms and summoned the Golden Lotus, a radiant artifact of devastating power. Golden light erupted, surrounding his body. The lotus hovered before him, absorbing the energy and glowing brighter with each passing second. But Bai Qingling didn't flinch. He stood calmly and thought to himself that this was exactly what he had wanted. He said inwardly that the Golden Lotus might be Xiao Chen's final weapon, but it wasn't enough to overcome a nascent soul cultivator, especially not one who had already rebuilt his golden core body. Then, from the corners of the room, streams of purple light surged forward. They pierced the lotus from every side. The explosion that followed was deafening. The lotus shattered instantly, pieces scattering in every direction. Watching this, Zhao Shen, who had been hiding, stepped out, eyes wide in disbelief. He shouted that Mu Linlin had tricked him. That he had trusted her to kill the demon, and now it was too late. He cursed her for dooming him. At that moment, Bai Qingling appeared behind him. With a voice cold as death, he said it was time to finish this. Zhao Shen staggered back, trembling in fear.